Slick editing. Every part ends with a door and begins with a door.
I did it first.
Almost all of them.
Okay, excuse me. You're not the only one who knows how to cut and then start with a fade in. All right, John, don't act like you're so good at editing.
I never said I was the only one that did it. I said I did it first.
Okay, whatever.
You are not the person to invent crossfades, John.
Yeah. No, I just said I did it first, comparing to the Resident Evil playthrough. If Lewis is going to bring it up, he's not going to act like he's...
Except Silent Hill is technically going up first.
Hold on a moment. I think actually I was the first one to do any playthrough on this channel with serious amounts of editing.
Jesus, Ted, you didn't invent crossfades.
Because, okay, hold on. The first playthrough I can think of that was heavily edited for BrainScratch was probably Pokemon Yellow, which, who recorded? Oh yeah, that was me. All right.
And I remember that seamless editing where we saw your fucking Audacity screen for like 2 seconds.
One time, all right?
Seamless. The award goes to anybody else but him, because goddamn.
The fact that you remember that, even though that was literally a good, 8 years ago, is astounding.
Almost
actually.
8 years ago, I want to say, yeah.
Oh God, we're old. We are all so old. Even you, Ted.
I think right now I'm older now than you guys were when we started, and I was talking about being a baby all the time. So,
yeah, we started in 2009. I was 19 then.
Yeah.
I was in my sophomore year of college.
Man.
That feel when there's a very real chance that someone watching this video is younger than BrainScratch comes.
Well, I was gonna say that's aiming a little low, but I'd believe it.
My younger cousin, who is 9, knows of my channel. I don't know if she's watched any of it, but she does know of it. So, it's there.
Stay in school, kids.
This is one of those puzzles where the different valves turn both things in different increments, so you have to figure out the numbers in your head to turn it so that it opens, or you can just look it up in a guide like I did before recording this. Because,
there you go.
Doodly 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 doodle.
It's
I ain't
fun.
got time to think.
It's fun figuring that stuff out when you're playing on your own time, but I'm recording here.
I always hate these kinds of puzzles because there's a shocking amount of these sorts of puzzles in video games where the answer is just use all of them once and it doesn't even matter what order it's in. I can think of at least... Okay, well actually I can only think of one.
My favorite is the Resident Evil 4 one where it's just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, but then, you only find that after the fact, and that's it's like, fuck me.
There was that puzzle at the end of Beyond Good and Evil that had a ridiculously simple solution once you knew it. And it was the same sort of thing. I think it involved mirrors and reflecting light.
What is this thing?
I can't tell, it's too fucking dark.
This is a lizard thing, and if you
Very
recall,
scientific name.
If you recall from our last session, 2 weeks ago or something, there was a fairy tale book on a table somewhere that talked about an archer shooting a lizard through the mouth. Basically, what you need to do is run around like an idiot shooting with a handgun until it gets mad enough at you to open its mouth and charge. Once it does that, pull out your shotgun and fire twice. I think twice is enough to take it out with a shotgun. Once it has its mouth open, anyway.
Man, King Dodongo looks weird in Silent Hill.
Now, the thing about guns in Silent Hill is that they're basically boss buster weapons if you know what you're doing. Because
I would imagine guns are.
Well, you almost never need your guns for the regular enemies because the melee is actually pretty reliable. The only exceptions are, well, the flying enemies in this series are annoying as hell, which is why they never made any flying enemies in Silent Hill 2, and why it was a terrible mistake to bring one back in 3. But we'll get to that when we're playing as Heather. Ugh.
About 7 years from now.
It's even worse in 3 because the enemies in 3 are actually a ton more aggressive than in this game. Hi, Alessa.
Oh shit, a cutscene?
Yeah. That is...
The late PS1 CG actually holds up decently well, all things considered.
Yeah.
The CG is fine. It's a little low res, but you can't really do much about it.
Yeah,
It's it's certainly better than like a lot of TV CG that came out around that time.
Yeah. Although, as far as late PS1 CG goes, Square was the only one that really did it right.
You see, I wouldn't even say that 100% of the time because I'm gonna crap talk a game everyone loves, but I don't like the way the CG looks in Final Fantasy IX. It's
That's
weird.
that's more the art style of the characters. The CG itself is beautiful, but if you don't like the way the characters look,
Well, the thing is
in
that
that-
I don't mind the way the characters look when they're like
when they're
in their art
models,
or
yeah.
when they're models, but in the CG,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just odd.
Yeah, it is a bit odd, but that's less the CG quality and more just the way the art style translates to it. I like the CG in Final Fantasy IX, but I will confess I find some of the faces a bit weird. The CGI in Final Fantasy VIII, however, still holds up beautifully to this day, especially if you can get these somewhat sharper versions of them that the PC version had, which is kind of
Because
my-
it's not on anything else anymore. Hey.
My only issue with 8's CGI is that despite the beautiful structure and animation, it's a bit slow.
It is a bit slow, but only a bit. And
Yeah.
Well, if it's slow, that's probably why it didn't get re-released on all those other consoles. Then
No.
I mean, that's it. Crack the code.
Slow, just like the gameplay.
The reason they haven't re-released it is because they never did a report of it for mobile or PS4 or anything. The PC version of 7 on Steam only got its music update when they made a PS4 port for it, and I think that also has a mobile version. Does it have a mobile
No,
version?
not
No.
true. Not true. Not true. It got the music update way before they got the PS4.
It got the music update because they were making the PS4 version at the time.
It happened years before, dude.
Years before.
well, there was probably
Huh.
a music mod even before that.
I remember hearing that it didn't come up on Steam with the music update though. It was still the shitty MIDI files. Or am I?
Because I got
I
the
remember
Steam
that.
version
I do
way
remember
before
that
the
for
PS4
sure.
version,
Yeah.
and it already
Well,
had the music
the
installed.
point is, Final Fantasy VIII hasn't
8
even
is not
gotten
good.
that. 8 hasn't even gotten that. You need to hunt down a mod to update Final Fantasy VIII's music. And it used to be easy to do that, but all the Final Fantasy VIII mods seem to be going the way of the dodo lately. So, yeah. I can't find the texture mod that makes the world map textures as good as they were on PlayStation yet.
And it's safe assumption that they probably don't have the source code for 8 anymore. Because I feel they would have done something by now if they did.
Maybe, but 8 needs a serious update if they're going to port it over, because there were certain things. Here's the oddball thing about 8's PC release, alright? The Steam release specifically, I should specify that, because, okay, weird thing, the PC version, the original PC version, had sharper FMV files than the Steam release.
Wait,
You
what?
actually have to mod in the sharper versions using a fan patch if you want to get like good quality CG in the Steam release.
I'm
you al-
confused.
You also have to get a texture mod for the world map to make the textures in the world map look as good as they were on PlayStation.
And you got a bootleg if all the FMVs have the unregistered Hypercam 2 logo on the top right.
2006 was a wild time on the internet.
No, unregistered Hypercam 2 or Divx.
Or Divx. Oh my god, Divx.
Dude, you're dating this so bad. You might as well say E-Bombs World. You know.
We're going. Well, no, Silent Hill is a late '90s game, and we got to date back to late '90s.
Okay, real player.
Real player.
Oh,
You guys,
Jesus.
you guys have heard of Napster?
Napster.
Why?
No.
did you have to remind me?
John Bearshare.
Oh my god! Wow.
The real bitch about all those old things, though, is that there are a lot of things that require them, and like games that require them on some level, or some codec from them. And if your computer doesn't have them, as most modern systems won't, you have to find some patch or workaround to get things to work. I think like one game that comes to mind is what was it called? Septerra? Legacy of the Creators or something like that. It's a weird PC game that's sort of a Western-made JRPG type thing. You can find it on GOG. It's a pretty okay game. But all the video files in it are kind of borked out of the box, and you need a fix to get it to work right on modern systems. So, yeah, it basically makes the game unplayable and also kind of invisible when you launch it.
I want to find an America Online 1.0 disc, put it inside the computer, and just see
Well,
what happens.
just check your local dump, and you'll find 50,000 of them.
The best joke in Stardew Valley was that if you fish
Oh yeah, you fish up all of the JoJo.
all the JoJo Online discs. Yeah.
Jeez. But no, seriously, people were using those for coasters for years.
Coasters and frisbees.
What is AOL up to these days? It's a streaming
They still
site now, right?
still exist, shockingly enough.
They're the internet for old people.
I think it's just a browser now. Like honestly,
Yeah, it's just a browser, and it's a browser for old people.
What is it? Another one of those spin-offs of the original project that Chrome came from?
Probably.
Chromium.
Most likely, it's no longer like a dedicated program. It's just a browser.
Lazy Game Reviews did a really good video on what happened to AOL, so shameless plug to him. You can go give that a watch.
Well, you know, it's not a shameless plug if you're not plugging yourself or someone affiliated with you.
Yeah,
Good point.
it's just a shout out at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, but geez, I feel really bad for dedicated retro PC gamers, because your only options are A, keep 20-year-old hardware around and in working condition to play the games you want the way you want them, or B, you deal with missing codec and emulation trouble hell.
Well, there is a C option. Virtual machines will often do a lot of that compatibility stuff for you. If you make a virtual machine with, say, Windows 98, you can get Redguard running, which is one of the old Elder Scrolls spin-offs with really retro-ass jank controls.
You need to have a pretty good PC in order to run a virtual machine well, though. But I mean, I guess if you're a PC gamer, you probably already have a decent rig anyway.
Yeah, it depends on what virtual machine.
It depends on what virtual machine. My PC is mediocre as hell, and you can get most 98 stuff going. Not all of it. Like no matter what I do, I don't think I'm ever going to get the PC version of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone running without hideous graphical flaws. But yeah. That was from that game was from the odd era of PC gaming where it was actually significantly lagging behind consoles in terms of graphical power because everyone was making their PC games for people with less powerful hardware.
Well, that was also kind of during a time where everybody had different graphics cards and stuff was improving so frequently that you couldn't really make something for the highest end. If you started making something for the highest end card at the beginning of development, that card would no longer be highest end by the end.
That was actually what happened to Ultima 9. They had a version of the game in development that was sort of isometric 3D, and that's all I really know about it. I haven't researched much beyond that. I have seen a screenshot or two though. And they got pulled off the project to work on Ultima Online, which, was a revolutionary project and all, very important to gaming history, being the first official MMORPG and all. But they were on that project for so long that by the time they got back to Ultima 9, they had to start from scratch. And then when they did finish it, they bet on the wrong horse for graphics cards. Something like 3D Now, I think it was called, or 3DFX. I think it was 3DFX. Yeah, and they made the game with that card in mind, but it wound up being the losing card. So most computers
those poor
had
people who
glitches.
bet on HD DVD.
HD DVD. Yeah.
The funny thing is, the game runs better now if you get the GOG version than it ever did at the time. So the re-release that is available now is actually far, far more stable on modern systems than the game was on the computers it was made for.
I admire those games that were designed with a specific class of CPU in mind, but didn't accommodate for more powerful hardware, which I think is the reason why, like, the Sonic and Knuckles collection on PC is impossible to play on nowadays without mods.
You see, it's actually
it runs too fast.
It's not always a matter of not accommodating for more powerful hardware. It's usually a problem of more powerful hardware phasing old, obsolete stuff out.
There's something really interesting where this is more of a thing with like 80s games and early 90s games than mid to late 90s games, but the games would still run, but the CPU clock speed was faster, so the games would just run at really weird frame rates and speeds and stuff. So a lot of computers had a turbo button on it, but the turbo button wouldn't speed things up; it would actually slow things down, which was,
It would like
weird.
put a limiter on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that it
So-
would actually run older stuff at the correct hertz or whatever. I don't know the tech word.
What
for
you
it,
what you
sorry.
don't want to play? You don't want to play Star Fox SNES on overclock mode?
Doesn't that make it
No.
like impossible?
It's
It's-
impossible.
But it's fun to try.
So according to the map, we're on Bradbury Street. Got any books to burn?
It's already cold out, so that could actually be useful.
right.
No, the joke came just a little too late. We're not on Bradbury Street anymore.
Well, we're next to
Blech.
Bradbury Street, so whatever.
So if we're next to Bradbury Street, does that mean we have to burn like magazines instead?
Sure, those aren't worth anything.
I think Fahrenheit 451 they did have magazines after a sort, but I'm not sure what the specifics were. I haven't read Fahrenheit 451 in years.
I haven't read it at all. So
The last exposure I had to it was like the Dom's videos on the 2 movie adaptations.
Oh, the British one from like the 70s.
The British one from like the 70s, and then a more modern one that really went in a weird direction.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody today would really care about a classic book movie. Like, I feel like most of the movies today that try to be based off of classic books kind of just fail. Like, because nobody cares. Which is, sad because we should care about classic literature, but we don't. Because we're an illiterate society of morons, but...
Well, to be fair, the thing is, most of cinema has already done all the classics in some form or another.
That's true, but
Like-
that
like we-
hasn't
like we
stopped us
don't- we
from
don't-
making 3 Spider-Mans
Well,
in
when that
10
happens,
years.
what that happens when it's what is regarded as is not a remake, is not an adaptation of the book, but a remake of the last adaptation.
Kind of.
Oh, that-
but
that happened with
it's
the
like we
Mummy.
don't. It's like we don't need another movie about anything Shakespeare at this point.
The only case of that where I would really legitimately like to see it happen, though. Yeah, I like how he scribbles out this entire area that's just inaccessible because all the roads to that corner of town are blocked. Oh, and here's the chainsaw, the first of the New Game Plus weapons.
Groovy.
You can find it here. So once you get to the gas station and find the gas, just come over to this side of town and you can get yourself a chainsaw.
We
What was I
didn't
saying?
pay for that gas. We're criminals.
Oh yeah, the adaptation that I really want to see, because we haven't had a proper one yet, and don't point to the Judy Garland one because it's barely passable as far as adaptations go. The Oz series,
Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah,
not
like
just Wizard of Oz, the entire series.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make a good point there. Like, The Wizard of Oz is one of the classic all-time great movies, but as an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, it changes.
Barely resembles the book.
Yeah.
At all.
Like, and you can
know
make
what,
an argument that it does so for the better, but that's, beyond the scope.
Yeah,
of
That's
you know,
neither here or there.
And, I think there's a lot of Oz fans out there that would like to see the Oz series get the Lord of the Rings treatment, It, like, the market wasn't there for it back when the old movies were made or when they
Well,
tried to
you know
return
what
to
Oz-
You know what
but-
Oz needed? Mordor.
There have
What?
been a lot of Wizard of Oz. Like, honestly, the only real thing that we've gotten that's close to that is Wicked, and I hate Wicked. So,
Oh shit! Don't go
There
saying that
have
out
been
loud.
a bazillion.
like the music is fine, don't get me wrong, but it's like, oh, we have to make a dark backstory for why the Cowardly Lion is cowardly, and oh, the Tin Man's actually racist. It's like, no, can we not, please?
If you want a dark backstory, the Tin Man is where you go.
Yeah, they
the-
just completely changed the Tin Man. Like, it's like, oh, she cut off my the witch cut my body apart, or something like that. And
No, it's even better in the book. Like
He starts chopping off his own body parts.
Yeah,
to get
he like
different stuff.
he or his axe or something gets cursed, and he starts chopping off his own body parts, and then he replaces them with metal. And I don't know how he survives long enough to do this, but he winds up replacing everything, including
His head and
whatever
stuff.
was his head, his torso, everything. So, yeah.
This would, as far as adaptations, I'd like to go. Not a movie, but say like a Netflix series. This would never happen because it can be very dry at times. Isaac Asimov story stuff.
Yeah. We need something to wipe the slate clean after that awful iRobot movie.
Which it basically just steals the name and nothing else.
The name and, they sort of named one of the characters or 2 of the characters after characters from the short stories, but that's about it.
Yeah.
They also changed the premise to the exact premise that the author was avoiding when he wrote the book. It's one of those ironic things where you went completely against the author's intention, guys. Good job.
And that's why that movie sucks, among many, many other things.
Yeah. I mean, he wrote those stories because he was sick of the whole
Evil robots trying to take
evil
over
robot
the world thing.
the robots becoming self-aware and mounting a rebellion or whatever. No, the robots were completely bound by the rules of robotics.
Yeah, they can't fight them. That's just how they're programmed.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, a lot of science fiction is very anti-science in a way. It's a lot of
Well, the Hollywood version of science fiction.
Ooh, robots are scary. The future's bad. That happens to a lot of sci-fi
The
stories.
AI is going to rise up and destroy us. No, it's not. AI would actually be very, very easy to kill.
I actually did read the iRobot stories when I was in high
Which is
school.
exactly what Cyberdyne would want you to think.
the iRobot stories are brilliant because the laws of robotics were binding, and all of the screw ups and unexpected developments were just humans not being able to completely predict what their rules would result in. So,
Yeah, the robots are doing exactly what they're programmed to do. People are just stupid and not following their own rules.
and it ends with a robot basically taking over the world and basically leading humanity into utopia. So,
Well, if you want to go into the not following their own rules thing, ironically, Mega Man is more capable of adapting Isaac Asimov than iRobot was.
yeah.
Except for the mistranslation in 7 where he just says, "Screw you, Wily, you're dead."
Yeah, except for that, but it's like basically literally just Isaac Asimov.
Well, if the laws of robotics were brought into it, it would explain why Dr. Wily keeps, being spared.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but it's like that's literally Base's entire shtick. He betrays Wily because Wily is actually so stupid he's screwing up Base's hardwired goal of kill Mega Man.
Oh, man. This is where you would find the gas tank, by the way, if you were on a New Game Plus.
And you said that you can only choose one weapon on a
One
New
weapon
Game Plus?
per New Game Plus playthrough, but
Okay.
that weapon will remain accessible during the following one. At least if I remember correctly. I've never actually played New Game Plus. This is all information I found out
Now,
secondhand.
what do you know the reasoning between why you're only allowed to choose between one over the other?
Because the melee weapons from New Game Plus are freaking beastly, and they wanted to make you work for them.
But you already can carry like so many other items. Why can't I hold both?
John, you see, most DMs don't care about your weight limit, but when you go to New Game Plus, they change DMs, and this one does. So.
The way it works is you have to get the gas and then go to the weapon, and you can only pick up the weapon when you can fuel it. This is, well,
Creepy cult lady.
yeah.
Jesus.
Dahlia, that's her name, Dahlia. I crossed my wires there, but only because she shares a name with a completely other character in a Dungeons and Dragons novel series.
Is she
so yeah.
more or less evil than the Dahlia from Ace Attorney?
Probably more, because she's trying to summon a god to destroy the world.
I don't know. Dahlia's pretty damn evil.
Yeah, but Dahlia never summoned a god, though.
Okay,
Have you seen
this
her
is
breakdown?
okay. Just to this is the evil religious woman who is the analog to Carrie White's mother, as far as Alessa goes. Alessa's storyline is a deliberate parallel to Carrie, Stephen King's first novel, or more specifically, I should say, the movie version, or one of the movie versions. There's probably more than one at this point.
So her mother was abusive then, basically?
Abusive, yeah, and in the game continuity, Alessa's story is completely different in the movie. In the game continuity, according to Silent Hill Origins, this is really hazy in Silent Hill 1. According to Silent Hill Origins, there was a ritual in order to impregnate Alessa with the god that this cult is trying to birth into the world. And the ritual involved a hell of a lot of fire, which burned down their house and left Alessa a charred mess of a person. So yeah, and she was kept alive in that state for years, kept alive and in agony for all that time, in order to nurture the god to maturity, because apparently agony and hatred are what do that. Why are you trying to bring this god into the world? Because the cult believes this god is a good god, like a righteous god, but you need to nurture it with hatred and pain? This is something that doesn't add up there.
But he
Are we
loves
the
you.
are we the baddies?
The Floros item, by the way, is just a McGubbin in this game. It has a significant story in Silent Hill Origins. Silent Hill Origins is a weird case as far as recommending it goes. It's really, really annoying in several gameplay aspects, and the story does seem a bit unnecessary in some points, but it does clarify Silent Hill 1 in a few interesting ways here and there.
Those are usually the type of games I recommend watching a Let's Play for and not necessarily playing yourself.
Yeah. Silent Hill Origins lets you go back and forth between the other world and the fog world at will by going through mirrors. So it kind of drags. Because you're constantly going back and forth completing objectives rather than, going through the game the way you would in this game, and it kind of artificially lengthens it. That's the main problem.
They
with
linked to the
Hill-
past did Silent Hill.
Yeah, well, they did it badly.